Hey everyone, welcome back to the Music Hole. My name is Cole, and today we're going to be talking about my sixth entry into the series I'm calling the best albums of all time. You know, these are albums that just blew me away, and really I'm just very excited to talk about them and share them with you guys. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about an electronic album from 2012. This is Andy Stott and his album Luxury Problems, which, by the way, in my last clip I used a clothespin. Just the way that the vinyl is made, you know, it was gonna like fall over if I didn't do that. So this time I was smart and I figured you can just use a paper clip. Anyway, so I like this album cover, but I also don't like it. And what I mean by that is, in terms of like the name of the album and what the album sounds like and what it seems to be about, I'm not exactly sure how this ties into it, other than, this is kind of like a stretch, but so the album is kind of like a really dark journey into an industrial, machine-like, cold, type of post-apocalyptic world. You know, there's not a lot of humanity going on. So if you approach it like that, I guess you could say that like this is perfect form for, I guess, the dive. And you know, since the album kind of touches on like factories and industry, you know, it's kind of like seeking perfection. But yeah, that's a stretch. So if you guys have a better way to tie in this album cover with the whole album, feel free to share it. But anyway, so I really like this album. As far as I'm concerned, it's an easy 10 just because it's so effective at creating a specific atmosphere, which again, as I mentioned, is like post-apocalyptic, 1984-ish, like very industrial. It just does that so well. The atmosphere is incredible. But I'll get into that with some clips. So we're going to start with track number 1, which is called Numb. And I have 3 clips from this track. So let's jump right in. Okay, so that was the beginning of the album, and very quickly, I just want to mention that for this album, Andy worked with a professional opera singer, and you know, she kind of appears throughout the album, but she begins this album, you know, it's a very short, very simple clip of just her singing Touch, and in my opinion, in order to understand the significance of this beginning, you kind of have to already know how the rest of the album sounds. So that's kind of why I already described a little bit for you. You know, I said it's very industrial. So like, my interpretation would be that, you know, touch being like the human touch. So in this world, in this post-apocalyptic world, you know, intimacy and human touch is like the last refuge of hope, or something like that. That's how I think about it, you know. It's like the last human thing left in this world is just your ability to physically touch somebody in that warmth, and just stuff like that. So, you know, even just this one line, this very short clip, you can think about it in a few ways. Anyway, so it's an interesting beginning, but I do have 2 more clips from this song. So let's check out clip number 2. So other than the fact that the atmosphere that you hear in this clip is just so incredible, you know, especially in the background towards the end. I'm not even sure what's making that noise, maybe a keyboard, whatever it is. But what interests me in this clip in particular is the vocal manipulation going on. You know, the vocals are like getting cut, you know, they're getting interrupted. And, you know, the name of the song is Numb. So it kind of seems like, the humanity is being lost a little bit, in the sense that this guy, this character in the world of this album is like, even the human touch is like losing its warmth and magic, and he's becoming numb to it. That's how I think about it. You know, I could be wrong. That's how I interpret the vocal manipulation anyway. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, so I have another clip from this song, my favorite part of the song. So let's check it out. I just love the sound of that beat that kicks in, that really industrial beat. It's just the perfect recording to try to capture that industrial feel. And that's gonna be a common theme on this album. He has like several different versions of it throughout different songs. It just sounds so good. And even, you know, aside from that, you know, you could interpret this part as like the character, maybe the character in the beginning of the song was like at home with his family, but now he's like going to work maybe, and he's traveling to work, and as he's traveling to work, you know, the voice gets manipulated, so he's losing that human touch and that hope. And in this clip, I guess he's finally at work, you know, in like a factory maybe. And so that's where the beat kind of starts, is like now he's at work and he's numb and he's just trying to get through the day. Yeah, so I really like this part. It's my favorite part. But that's all I have to say about track one. So with that said, let's talk about track number 2, Lost and Found. Okay, so in a previous video, I did a little tangent on if you're not like completely into a song within the first 5 or 10 seconds, you know, there's something wrong with the song. And I also mentioned that, you know, it doesn't have to be energetic. It could be just very atmospheric. So this track is the perfect example of that. I mean, just immediately, you know, in my opinion, like you just are completely in this world. Again, I don't really know how to describe the sound in terms of like what instrument is making it, but you're just like the sound, the atmosphere is just so good. It's just perfect. And you know, and as the song kind of transitions from that into, you know, like an angelic type singing situation going on, you know, you can't hear what she's singing, but I like this part because if you think about the name of the song, you know, it's called Lost and Found. I guess that this guy, it's kind of like a religious theme almost, I would say. You know, like Lost and Found, like this guy is lost in the sense of like his soul is lost because he's in this like cold, heartless world. And I guess the angelic singing kind of signifies maybe this guy has found some sort of religion, which is like keeping him going, you know, saving his soul, so to speak. It's just keeping him going in this awful world that he lives in. That's how I interpret it. But this part's really cool. I love it. But I do have a second clip from this song, so let's check it out. So to be honest, the point of this specific clip is for a couple reasons. The first being that, like, just sonically, I think it's such an incredible groove. There's just so much going on, and the sounds in the song are just really spectacular. And especially like towards the end of the clip, you hear what sounds like, I guess, machinery is how I would describe it, you know, and it sounds like machinery, but it's so groovy. So I guess this guy is like finally, you know, thanks to his religious, you know, situation going on that I mentioned before, is like getting into the groove of his factory job, and he's just like, he's finally like sort of okay at the moment. You know, he's not loving it, he's not hating it, but he's just kind of like getting into the groove of, you know, the reality of his life. Anyway, so I thought this was a really interesting clip in that regard. That's all I have to say about track 2. So with that said, let's talk about track number 3. So that was track number 3, which is called Sleepless. And this is another track which begins with another really atmospheric, moody, industrial, depressing vibe. Although this clip, that wasn't this clip, obviously. This clip was from a little bit further into the song. And I wanted to play it because this is absolutely my favorite part of the album. When the beat kicks in about halfway through the clip, that sound, like that specific recording, you know, and just all the effects on it, everything about it is just such a powerful sound. I mean, oh my goodness, like every time I hear this song, I just kind of tear up a little bit, to be honest. Like, it's just so beautiful, it's so perfect. I mean, this album is, as I mentioned earlier, like this album is such a masterclass in how to create, you know, the right atmosphere. I mean, just the consistency of this album is pretty insane in terms of, you know, every song kind of ties in to the same theme, the industrial theme. And there's so much you can talk about. Like, I mean, one of the issues with electronic music in general is that, like, it's kind of hard to talk about it. But, you know, with this album in particular, it really spoke to me because there seems to be a very clear theme going on. with these songs. And so it makes it interesting to talk about. You know, you can have your own theories. So I'm just sharing my theories, which, again, could be totally wrong. But anyway, so Sleepless is probably my favorite track. But that's all I have to say about it. So let's move on to track number 4. So that's Hatch the Plan, track number 4. And I think it's a perfect title in terms of especially this clip, because, you know, in the beginning of the clip, it's like the industrial factory, you know, depressing thing going on. And then if you catch it, there's a very short moment in the clip right before she starts singing, where it sounds like she goes, like, oh, I have an idea. So like an idea as in like he's figured out maybe how he's gonna escape this post-apocalyptic situation. You know, that's maybe a bit of a stretch, but I noticed that little bit, that, and it made me think of that. But this is a pretty interesting song, another really good song. But really, that's all I had to say about it, you know. So we have this guy, you know, he's finally like thinking of a way to improve his life somehow. So it's a key point in the album in that regard, you know. Anyway, so that's track number 4. Let's move on to number 5. Again, just another incredibly atmospheric beginning, this time with, I guess, what sounds like a didgeridoo, which is pretty neat. And again, another incredible industrial beat that kicks in. Just the way that he records the beats is just like absolutely captivating and just inspirational. I mean, you know, I don't know what kind of effects he used, but it's just so powerful. And, you know, the name of the song is Expecting. So I guess, like, maybe you could interpret it in a couple ways. Number 1 might be like he's expecting resistance. So the beat maybe is like his heart racing a little bit, you know, or just, you know, his heart is racing because he has his plan and he's excited. You know, he's maybe thinking like, oh, I finally figured out how to get out of this awful situation. So I think about it in that kind of way. I could be wrong again, but this is a really cool song. I like it. That's all I really have to say about it. So with that said, we're going to get to track number 6, which is called Luxury Problems, the name of the album. And by the way, speaking of the name of the album, you know, being Luxury Problems, I've been trying to figure out what that means within the context of the whole album. And I guess really all I could think of is like luxury as in, you know, like first world countries like the US benefiting, you know, from all this industry like with our iPhones, in our cars, and our computers, or whatever. But then the rest of the world that's making this stuff, their lives are the world of this album, I guess. Like the people in China that make our iPhones or whatever, this is like, a really intense version of that, So that's the only way that I could really tie in the name of the album with the whole feel. So I don't know if you guys have a better interpretation. Again, I'd love to hear it. I'm just kind of making this stuff up as I listen to the songs. Whatever just comes to mind, I just blah. Anyway, so with that rant over, let's talk about track number 6. Yeah, so this song just has one of the most amazing grooves that I've just ever heard. I just love it so much. And actually, now that I think about it, this might actually be my favorite song. As much as I like Sleepless. But I mean, this groove that you hear is basically, all 5 minutes of the song. And again, the name of the album, or the name of the song is Luxury Problems. So I guess you could maybe interpret it as like, since this groove is so mesmerizing and amazing, it's like, that's like the luxury part of like people enjoying that groove are living in luxury. But then, of course, as we talked about, half the world lives in luxury, while the other half provides the luxury. But as they're providing the luxury, they live in, these horrible conditions, I guess. So again, possibly a stretch there, but that's how I think about it. Just an amazing song. I mean, kind of dancey, just really, really, just really fun. Fun in what's basically a depressing album. Anyway, so that's track 6. Let's talk about track number 7. And so track 7 is called Up the Box. And sonically, I'll be honest, I don't really understand how it ties in with the rest of the album. I have one clip from the song, and basically it's like he does this kind of jungle / drum and bass sound, which is like at complete odds with the rest of the album. I don't really understand the point of it. I mean, it sounds good. Like it's it's fun. It's a very solid song, but like thematically, just from a sonic standpoint, I don't really get it. But in terms of like the name of the song, Up the Box, you could think of it like his world maybe is in this box, metaphorically, and up the box is like his plan to get out of the box. I guess outside the box is like the ideal world that he wants to escape into. Again, a little bit of a stretch, but it's the only way that I can possibly tie the song into the rest of the album. Anyway, so with that said, let's just check out the clip and you'll see what I mean. again, like I said, just a completely different sound from the rest of the album. And actually, I'll be honest, as I listened to the clip again, I figured out a way to tie it into the rest of the album. So bear with me. So I guess the drum and bass section is like the sonic representation of what this guy's plan is. So that's why it's so different from the rest of the album, is because it's the representation of his plan. So, and it makes sense if you think about it that way, considering the name of the song is Up the Box. So like, he's able to go up the box and escape because this new sound, which represents, like a metaphorical ladder or whatever, that's like the new thing he thought about earlier on. So yeah, I guess it does make sense if you consider that. Yeah, I like that. But anyway, I only have one last clip from this album. There's only 8 tracks, and this is track 8, Leaving, which is like the perfect ending in so many ways. So let's listen to it and talk about it. Yeah, so I think it's fair to say, it sounds pretty obvious given that kind of heavenly singing that, and it's called Leaving, that the character in this album has finally escaped into some better life. I don't think he died literally, but something happened, he escaped, he's in a happier place. And yeah, I mean, again, like this album is such a dark, intense journey, and it's very cinematic. I mean, each song is important, and Andy just does an amazing job finding the right sounds for the right moments. And as again, as I said, like this is just a masterclass in how to create compelling atmosphere. Because some of this, especially with some of the songs, how they start, all it is just the atmosphere. There's no beat, there's no rhythm. It's just like, again, I don't know what the instruments are, but you know what I mean. Anyway, I just love this album. It's probably, it might be my favorite electronic album, period. And there are many that I love. Like if you've gone to my website, musichole.com, especially in the 90s, you'll notice that there's a whole bunch of 90s electronic albums that I really like. But I think just like, it's a very short album. It's 8 songs. But again, just like thematically, it's perfect. Sonically, it completely ties into the theme of the album. And I just get so many goosebumps listening to this album. And as I mentioned in Sleepless, I occasionally tear up because it's just so beautiful. So yeah, I'd give this a 10. If you force me to rate it. But anyway, check it out. I hope you like it. Again, you might not like it. And actually, if you don't like it, I'm interested in knowing in the comments why you didn't like it. Maybe there's some things I didn't consider. But anyway, whatever you have to say, please feel free to leave a comment and, start a discussion. Again, if you like the video, please like and subscribe. I like making videos, and I have a whole bunch of stuff lined up, so hopefully I can do one a day. But anyway, this is Luxury Problems. Check it out, and have a good one.